friends, welcome back, or welcome if you're new here. My name is Stacy and I am the Chapter Conundrum, and in today's video I have a fun book tag for you guys, the rapid fire book tag. And I was tagged to do this by Fina over at Fina Reads. Definitely go check out her video of this if you haven't yet already. It was interesting to hear her talk about some of her answers with these questions, but it has been a hot minute since I have watched them and I don't remember what the questions are. I haven't looked at these to refresh myself, and we're just going to go off the cuff and see rapid fire as much as possible, because I tend to get chatty, what my answers to these will be. And I am also not sure who the original creator of this tag video is, so I don't have a video to link for that. But if you know, let me know down below in the comments for sure, and I will add them. So yeah, without further ado, let's go ahead and get into these questions. So the first one is ebook or physical book? And whew, this is tough. So mostly I would say physical book, but if I am reading in bed at night, definitely ebook, because I am a side sleeper and it's hard to physically read on your side because you're constantly adjusting for the page. And also if you're reading like 1,000-page tome, like sometimes I read epic fantasy, my pinky will get really sore holding that book open. So it depends, but I'm gonna say overall probably physical book. Number 2 is paperback or hardback. Either or. I don't really have a preference. Honestly, whatever format it comes in, I will read it. It's all about the story for me. Number 3 is online or in-store book shopping. And I might have a hot take for this one, I don't know, but I prefer to online book shop. Simply because when I'm shopping online, I can take the time to kind of look up, does my library have a copy of this? What's the wait time like if they do? Is this worth me buying? What do my Goodreads friends have to say about it? What do people with similar reading taste to me have to say about it? And also, like, is this on Everin? Is it on sale on Audible? All those kinds of things. Like, when I'm shopping in the bookstore, I don't necessarily get the time to kind of dig as deep into those kinds of things. And sometimes those things can really guide my reading choices and reading habits and give me the best experience. And so, yeah, I'm just going to go ahead and say online for those reasons. Number 4 is trilogies or series. And I'm going to say series on this one. There are definitely cases where the series has gone on way too long. But I think a story should be as long as it needs to be and as short as it needs to be. And so definitely I don't want to like confine everything to a trilogy. And I have this weird thing where like I never love book 3 in a trilogy almost. Like there's one series I can think of where book 3 has been my favorite. But like any other trilogy I've read, book 3 is never my favorite. Like, I don't know. I want better trilogy endings, I guess. But yeah, I'm going to go series because I tend to have more positive experiences with them. 5 is heroes or villains. And oof, if you know my reading taste, this isn't even a real question. Villains all the way. I love reading an emotional, reactive character who's letting you in on what they're feeling and what they've been through. And pretty much when you read about a villainous character or a morally gray character, the big kind of like aspect or piece to that is, okay, why are they the way that they are? What happened to them to kind of like give them this attitude, or how has their own moral code sort of been shaped? And also like, how are they justifying what they're doing? So kind of like all of those aspects are more layered and nuanced in a villainous character, and those are things I really enjoy reading about. So yeah, villain for sure. 6 is a book you want everyone to read. Whew. Okay, I'm gonna go sort of Kaigen by Emma Wong. Few reasons I'm going with this one is that I think this is one of my favorites that kind of goes towards a more broad audience. So it's more medium paced. It doesn't have necessarily slow pacing or fast pacing. It has a lot of good plot and action, but then also the main focus of this is the character work. So I think it can appease plot and character readers. I think there are really powerful emotional messages in here that could definitely benefit a lot of people. I think that this is very unique in some regards. Like one of our POV characters is a mother. You don't really get to see that in fantasy a lot. I do think the beginning of this is a little bit like slower and kind of jarring because it's very heavily focused on world building up front. But once you get into it, definitely you won't be able to put it down. This is also probably one of the most kind of like widely loved fantasy books that I can think of. Like it has a very, very high rating on Goodreads. And even though I talk to a lot of different kinds of fantasy readers, this is one that like pretty much nobody I can think of hates. Like everybody at least finds something to like in this book. Yes, they may have criticisms or complaints, but really this is one of the most kind of like widely loved, and it's an all-time favorite for me for several reasons. So yeah, I'm gonna go sort of Kaigen on that one. Question 7 is recommend an underrated book. Okay, this one may not be so rapid. What have I got that's underrated? Oh, okay, I know. So one of the things I have that is underrated is a short fantasy novella, Requiem for a Star by U.G. Gutman. And this is a prequel novella to the Winds of Strife, so Dawnless Night series. And you don't have to have read Winds of Strife in order to read and fully enjoy this. And in fact, I haven't read Winds of Strife yet, and this is a favorite. This made my favorites of the year last year. And this is a very short novella, but U.G. Gutman has this ability to kind of convey so much information in so few words, and it's in a very, very powerful way. If you decide to pick this up, don't skip the author's note. It definitely adds a whole other layer to what you just read in this. And this is kind of like a coming-of-age story following Nova, and it also follows one of the main characters from Winds of Strife in their younger years. But yeah, this is definitely one of the most kind of like memorable reads that I have read in a long time, and is one that has stuck with me, and definitely it'll be something I reread in the future. And I don't really hear a ton of people talk about it, so definitely quit sleeping on this and go check it out. Prompt 8 is the last book you finished, and for me that is Iron Flame at the time of filming, so the second book in the Empyrean series, the sequel to Fourth Wing by Rebecca Yarros. And while I liked it, I definitely thought that this installment in the series definitely made it clear that Rebecca Yarros is more of a romance writer and not necessarily a fantasy writer. There were a lot of things where I could tell, okay, she's putting this plot element into play kind of off the cuff. There's not really a lot of like foreshadowing or like critical thought that went into planning this series. And so definitely I have mixed feelings about it. Overall, it was still a very enjoyable read, but I have a feeling that I'm going to probably have more complaints with the series moving forward. Anyway, the last one I finished was Iron Flame, and that's basically the gist of how I felt. Prompt 9 is the last book you bought, and I have to grab that off my book cart. So the last one I bought is a blind date with a book pick from Inglenook Books. So Ian, the reader's bookstore with his wife. And my husband Jake and I just celebrated our 1-year wedding anniversary. And as part of that, we decided to treat each other to another blind date with a book from Ian's store. And we just did an unboxing video. So if you haven't seen that, go check that out on his channel. But I got Autumn of the Grimoire by J.L. Vampa, and I am hyped to check this out. It sounds really cool. So, I mean, I guess technically this one is like Jake purchased it for me, but anyway, we purchased them together for each other. So I'm gonna count this. This is my most recent purchase. Prompt 10 is weirdest thing you've used as a bookmark. I don't know on this one, actually. You know what? I do. Probably my dog's tail, because I do remember my golden retriever Dakota just kind of like, she was really old at the time, like 12 or 13. She's napping away on the couch and we're reading, and I had to get up to deal with Ozzy because he was a puppy at the time and doing something, probably chewing something he shouldn't be, and I just wanted to like replace it with a toy or whatever. But yeah, I remember she was like so out of it, I just used her tail as a bookmark on the couch and got up. So yeah, that's probably the weirdest thing. Question 11 is used books, yes or no? Absolutely yes. Honestly, used books and credit systems at used bookstores and like hand-me-down books from my sister are the reasons I'm able to be as avid a reader as I am. I love having the option to try out several things. I love having a big TBR, and definitely used books are the way that is made possible, and the way that I feel good about doing that, because I couldn't imagine if I paid full price for every book on this shelf. Like, that's insane. Like, no way. Honestly, I get most of my books used or free, so yeah. I'm also not really much of a book collector. I'm usually somebody who I read it and pass it on, unless it's an all-time favorite, in which case it will live on the shelves for me to go back to someday. But yeah, I mean, I would feel really wasteful if I was buying new books all the time to just read them and then get rid of them and pass them on. So yeah, used all the way. Question 12 is top 3 favorite genres. My most read genres and my favorites are definitely fantasy, contemporary romance, and thrillers. Question 13 is borrow or buy. And I think mostly borrow, but there are situations where it depends. So I'm big on using my library, definitely the digital resources of my libraries, especially now that I am in the US and have access to several libraries within kind of like my county system. I have so many more resources available to me through the libraries. It is amazing. Like pretty much probably 2/3 of anything I want to read I can find at the library for like less than a month or 2 months wait time, which I think is phenomenal because I definitely didn't have that kind of library access when I lived in Canada. I mean, I had a library and it was still okay. A lot of the wait times were longer, and they definitely didn't have a lot of the things I wanted to read, but I definitely have always made a habit of borrowing books, especially because I'm somebody who typically reads it and then lets go of it. I think there are a few scenarios though where buying maybe makes more sense. Like if you have borrowed a book from the library and it's an all-time favorite, you know that you're going to want to have this on your shelf. It makes you happy to look at it, or like you want a very special edition of an all-time favorite book. You know, those kind of things totally make sense if you want to buy them. Or maybe you're in the middle of a series that's like you need to read the next one when it comes out and you know you're not going to be able to borrow it in a timely manner. It makes sense to buy that, you know? Question 14 is character or plot. And I am more of a plot reader for sure. I do appreciate a good character. There are elements of characters that I gravitate towards more for sure. But I guess the way I look at it is if I'm reading a book that has an amazing, intricate plot that keeps me guessing, but it has bland characters, I'm gonna enjoy that a lot more than reading a book with no plot that has amazing characters. So I would say I'm more of a plot reader for that reason. Question 15 is long or short books. I'm gonna say it depends. I love long books, but then also I know it's not realistic to do those kinds of things in a readathon. And I'm also somebody who loves to have a million buddy reads and group reads and read-alongs going. So I would not be able to do that if I only read long books. So definitely a mix is like the optimal. But yeah, all-time favorites even are a mix of long and short. So like, I don't know. Both. They're all good. It just needs to be as long as it needs to be. And that's that. Question 16 is long or short chapters. Jake is going to hate this, but I prefer short chapters, especially if I'm reading physically. I will zoom through a book with short chapters. I don't mind long chapters, like I'm not opposed, but there's something to be said about short chapters that I love. I love the feeling of being able to make quick progress in a book and just feeling accomplished for getting through so much of it so quickly. And short chapters definitely allow me to do that. So question 17 is name the first 3 books you can think of. Right off the top of my head, The Passengers, Aurora, and Shutter Island. You know what? I just realized it's funny. I think this is because I just filmed my Battle of the Bands April TBR before this, and those are all on it. But also I've been talking about Ian the Reader in this video. And so it's funny, like I just associated like all of those books on my TBR with Ian. So Aurora came from a blind date with a book box from him. Shutter Island is one that I committed to read because of him when he chose books for Jake and I to read. And The Passengers, I'm doing the John Mars read along with him and other people as well. But yeah, all things I'm excited to read next month. And I guess Ian was on my brain. Prompt 18 is, do you prefer books that make you laugh or books that make you cry? Oh, cry for sure. I want a book to emotionally impact me, make me feel some type of way. I mean, a book that makes me laugh can be good too, but the ones that stick out in my brain as like favorites or things that I remember for years are books that hit me emotionally and make me cry. I also just find it fascinating to kind of unpack how different types of people or different types of characters deal with really hard situations. And so I definitely think that books that make me cry can kind of touch on my interests a little bit more that way. Prompt 19 is our world or fictional worlds. I'm going to say most of the time fictional worlds, but I'm not opposed to reading about books in our world too. But yeah, I just love the escapism aspect of being in a different world, I guess. And I think also part of that experience is just figuring out what are the rules and the norms in that world. And I always find that kind of stuff interesting too. So yeah, we'll go fictional world. 20 is audiobooks. Yes or no? Absolutely yes. Like probably 75% to 80% of my reading is audiobooks. Audiobooks are the reason I am able to read as much as I do. And I'm somebody who is a bit more of an auditory learner, so I retain and kind of like pull in information best through hearing it. And so audiobooks are a game changer for me, and I will 100% recommend them. I usually catch on to more foreshadowing in detail when I'm reading on audio than I do reading physically, which I know is not everyone's thing, but they work for me for sure. Question 21 is, do you ever judge a book by its cover? And like, yeah, all the time. Should I be better about not doing it? Probably. But there's something about like looking at a book cover and just knowing like, oh, is this like written in an era that I tend to enjoy books from? And also like the cover often hints at the content of the book. Maybe less so for things like epic fantasy, but more in terms of like romance or thrillers, definitely I'm more prone to judge a book by its cover. Question 22 is book to movie or book to TV adaptations? And I'm definitely going to say TV adaptations in this one. So first of all, I'm more of a TV watcher than a movie watcher. I tend to find that movies kind of like skim over so many things, or they just don't feel realistic because they're not as detailed. I mean, that's a big part of why I am a reader, is because I like more of the nuance and the details in a story than a movie is going to allow for. And also, a lot of my all-time favorites are long fantasy series. There's just no way you can fit like all the goodness into a movie. You're gonna have to expand it to TV. Question 23 is a movie or TV adaptation you preferred more than the book? Oh, this is easy, but it's a hot take. Lord of the Rings. I definitely did not necessarily jive with Tolkien's poems and Tom Bombadil and just like things that are in the books that you don't have to deal with in the movies. I thought that they did a really excellent job adapting the story, and the movies are a big part of the reason that that series holds as special a place for me as it does. So yeah, Lord of the Rings movies over the books for sure. Question 24 is series or standalones. I think they both have their place, but I am going to say series. I mean, that is the reason that I have been struggling to keep my ongoing series number as low as it is, because I love starting new series and figuring things out. And I love also just getting to spend a little bit more time in the world with the characters. I also love when a plot can be a little bit more intricate and that there's foreshadowing. It's very satisfying that way. And so like, yes, you can experience that in a standalone, but you tend to experience a lot more of that within a series. Like there's going to be hints at things in early books that become relevant in later books, and you get to just have a lot more theories about, oh, this could happen, or like the magic system could be used this way potentially, or maybe they'll run into this snafu with it, or just there's a lot more things that I enjoy. There's just a lot more things to have theories on in series, and that's one of the biggest things I enjoy about a reading experience. So yeah, I'll go series. So that was it for the rapid fire book tag. These were fun to answer. So thank you very much, Fina, for tagging me in this. And I'm also very curious to hear from all of you down in the comments, which one of these questions is the most interesting for you, or which one of my answers was the most interesting for you to hear about. Definitely let me know that down below. And the thing that I want to know from you guys also, if you want to answer one, is what's the weirdest thing you've ever used as a bookmark? And is it more or less weird than me using my dog's tail? So that was it for today's video. Thank you guys so much for watching. Don't forget to hit like and subscribe on your way out if you want to, and have a great day. Bye.